started already.
You started where?
I'm in the middle of the page. We started this in already, but we are going back to this point for a brief introduction. The line begins with Chassidus.
Which page is it?
Page Yud Zayin. And it's mamish in the middle of the page. The line starts with Chassidus. Maybe a line below the middle. At the end of that line, close parentheses, and we start from Vadugma. So now we are coming to the point where we can explain the principle that we started on the previous page, that the harkava, that the interrelationships and inclusion of two opposites, and we are talking right now, we're talking about Rosh Hashuv, which we'll come to, but in general, of two opposites, is due to the presence and the influence of an oir that is superior to both of them. So we have this long moshel for this, talking about that you have two distinct elements, like two midas that are very distinct. Chesed and Gvura are by nature very distinct and very opposite, not being able to tolerate one another as opposites. Yet, that is true only as long as they stay within their exclusive parameters, focus entirely on their individual natures. But when there is an opening and the chesed opens up to all of its ingredients, and the gvura opens up to all of its ingredients, which reveals that that inherently they actually include each other's qualities. And the reason that they include each other's qualities, then they can actually recognize each other, and they can relate to one another in a very inclusive manner. The reason that there are all of those ingredients inherent within Chesed and within Gvura is that the Chesed and the Gvura both, everything is ultimately rooted in the Etzem. There is an element of Etzem in each. And Etzem, by definition, has everything, and therefore in each there is everything. Going back to the Rambam that we are essentially learning all the time. The Rambam that says, "Me'amitis himotzoi nimtzo kol hanimtzoim," the truth of his presence, all the nimtzoim came to be, and we explain all the time that what this means is that everything that exists represents amitis himotzoi, the truth of his presence. Everything has an element of truth because it is rooted in amitis himotzoi, in the truth of his presence. We have all the time been mentioning it, pointing to one or another aspect that actually reveals and points to this in. And I'll be also explaining that ultimately the function of Chochmah, the Amsat Amuda Chochmah comes after recognizing that everything is rooted in Amitis Himotzei. The function of Chochmah, the ultimate function of Chochmah, is to show and to reveal the Amitis Himotzei in everything. That's in Chochmah. When you say Loi Sigzoil, that is because there's Amitis Himotzei in the world, and therefore therefore it exactly. And everything else along in those lines. Of course, as we explain all the time, that we have to understand this like Sigzoil in a different light, but essentially that is what it's rooted. So therefore, this root, this source from where everything is drawn, imbues into everything its basic truth. And therefore, in everything there is everything. In that respect, it's a emes. Because everything is bottled to the Amitis Himotzei, to its source, and because of that, there is a recognition of all qualities. So that Chesed cannot exclude Gevura totally. He can emphasize Chesed, but he cannot exclude Gevura totally, because Gevura is part of the truth of Amitis Himotzei, even from the Chesed perspective. And Gevura likewise cannot exclude Chesed. The dogma is Lamailo. Okay, so this is where we start.
Where is it?
It's in the middle of page Yud and the line begins with the word Chassidus. The dogma, the similar thing that we discussed in Chesed and Gevura is Lamailo. Be'eskal los hamidos, in interconnectivity, inter-inclusion of the midas. Shemas al-yedei shama the tikkun, which is affected by the shema of tikkun. Shema, this is the shame, the shame, I explained this morning, shema, this is one of the forms of the Yud-Ke Vov-Ke, how you spell out Yud-Ke Vov-Ke, that ultimately it ends up in ma, in a gematria, in numerical value of ma. And this Shema, this represents tikkun. This Shema, this is the Shem of Moichin. Like he pointed out, ma is the gematria Odom, because that's what Odom is. Shepoyel habitul v'achalishus behamidos, which affects the beetle and chalishus and weakness in the midas. And we explained this morning that this midos, this chalishus, is not a weakness. Not a weakness in the midos in terms of a weakness because I'm of self-doubt or something like that. Not at all. On the contrary, the midos are substantiated by Moichin. The midas are given a sense of basic, of a true basis. It's not weakened by the Moichin in terms of not being sure of itself, but it weakens in terms of insisting one perspective. Li is chesed kolo migvura, so that chesed would incorporate in Gvura. V'chein gab Gvura b'chesed. Mechesed, and Gvura should be also incorporating chesed. Validei, and then as a result of the fact that each has an element of the other, this will bring about, there will be his kalus beinayhem, between them and amongst them. All right. So here is an additional notch, a point that we have not pointed out before yet. This, we mentioned this morning, that these chlishos and this beetle is such that Neisem Mokim, Chesed is Neisem Mokim Ligvura. Gvura Neisem Mokim. Neisem Mokim means that it provides a place, it accepts it. It isn't just a weakness. It records, and it doesn't want to, it cannot be confrontational. But it actually, Neisem Mokim, it accepts, it recognizes the truth and the significance of Gvura and vice versa. This beetle of Chesed and Gvura, as a result of the Shema, as a result of this higher Oyer Shema, what they're rooted in, this beetle, as we said just now, is not merely a beetle of weakening, a battle of putting it into place, so to speak, and not giving it a full expression. That's not what it is. You could say it that way. Say, hey, there's something greater than you, so you keep quiet. But that is not what we're saying. What we're saying is that each actually incorporates, recognizes the value of the opposite, recognizes the truth that's in the opposite, because of its root in this greater oil. That's why, since it recognizes its value, so it actually Neisem Mokim, it can actually relate to the opposite. And this is why there will be his kalus b'neiam. Shemiri bo his kalus hazois. As this his kalus proceeds, and there was more and more his kalus interconnectivity. From that, nase riboy ha his chalkus beifane hamzigo beharkov behamidus. This results in riboy ha his chalkus, in an increasing number of his chalkus of subdivisions, and how the manner in which they are mismazeg, in which they are blended together. And a murkab in midas, ashemishisha midas, to the point that from just 6 essential midas, nase tov reish el, results in 600,000. 6 is multiplied by 100,000, and therefore you have 600,000. Kineda. The kahu hayiskalus. The allusion of 600,000 is obvious, because there are 600,000 basic neshamas Yisrael that was Mekabel the Torah. All neshamas are rooted in the same source, but none of them are identical to the other. And it's all from the various modes of interconnectivity, inclusion, as we said before, blending. וכך הוא היסקלוס.
Usually the 600,000 comes from one spark. Adam Arishon, right? One spark divided into sparks.
Right, what's the difference?
So this is
They're all representing the same source. וכך הוא היסקלוס. And similarly, the Iskalus, I think there's a Shin missing. Shanase al de HaTorah. I think that's it. Or Hanase al de Torah. The Iskalus that is affected by Torah. The Raisa mechochmo nafkos. Because Raisa, Torah, it comes forth from Chochma. Bechinas Shema de Tikkun. Which is the Chochma, this is Shema of Tikkun. The Chochma, the Torah, Bo, B'mides, and then this Chochma of Torah ultimately translates in Midas, which are represented by Kosher, Posel, Tomei, and Toher. Shehein, Shish, or Midas, which are interpreted of the Chochma, interpretation of Chochma in Shisha in the 6 meters or so. And then they subdivide in a very great multitude of individual situations. Which are represented by this enormous number, in unlimited number of halachas properties. What's the matter with you? David?
Yeah, we lost you on the conference line.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll call back.
Thank you very much.
Sure. What happened here?
Welcome to At the tone, please record your name followed by the pound key.
You on the conference? Yes.
Thank you. You are now entering the conference room. You are participant number 6.
He just called back in. Okay, called.
Baruch Bush, everybody. Okay, now we're back. We're back. Okay. Hello, everybody has it now?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so because that, this is what the Rebbe is summarizing now, because that the midas of Zoh come from Shema the Tikkun, Chochma, this is the origin of Chochma. Thus, it divides into Shisha midas and all the various unlimited halachas. Halachas say mispur. Thus, this is what's expressed in the Mishnah Talmidei Chachomim Mar Bim Sholem Bo'Olam. Talmidei Chacham increase shalom in the world, peace in the world. We explained many times that shalom means the ability to connect, interrelate opposites. Ribay HaShalom HaYischabros, which refers to the increased shalom and Yischabros and interconnectivity, and Nasa Alidei HaTeirah, that is affected by Torah. Okay. So this is the first Inyan that we said. Said that there are two ways, because we started saying that the Inyan is kalus, the true Inyan is kalus. We cause by two in two manners. One is that because all the spheres are rooted in the Etzem, therefore inherently they possess of their opposites. And this is why there is a possibility that enables the interconnectivity and the mezigo, the blending of all the various qualities. And that creates an ultimate shalom. Now we go to the next thing.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
So I'm not quite getting the connection between Torah and Midas. He's saying Torah is actually the cause of the Iskalus of Midas?
Yeah. Torah is mechochma nafkes. Torah comes from Torah, from chochma. And this is why Torah is able to bring the chochma down into halachas. What's the matter?
Which direction is it?
Another, every direction. Every direction.
Double check.
That's iskalus amidas. Right and left, front and back, the same.
The reason that we're saying that Torah is the source of this is, I don't still quite get it.
Torah expresses, brings down the halachas into the world. What are halachas? Halachas are the midos in the practical environment. Kosher and posel, toer and tomei, these are all midos. And there are unlimited possibilities for that. They're all defined by the Torah. It's interesting, just for us to get a perspective on this statement here. You know that there were the Tzdukim and Batusim who rejected Torah Shebe'al Peh, the halachas. Talmidei Chacham B'Rishon Ba'ilam, they rejected it. They learned Torah Shebe'Ksav verbatim, without breaking it down into its sub details and sub components. This was they say, oh, we are taking Torah literally. That's exactly the opposite of what Torah is. And of Torah is to show to allow for all the various possible components. And the Torah says you shouldn't make fire on Shabbos, shouldn't have fire on Shabbos, make fire on Shabbos. As far as there is concerned, you're not allowed to have fire on Shabbos. This is the reason that we are harder to eat shont on Shabbos.
To eat a cooked meal.
To eat a hot meal.
A hot meal.
Not a cooked meal, a hot meal.
Same with Ayin Tachat Ayin, all these things.
Yeah, all these things are. But it goes into all kinds of different little details.
Saduki here, that's Sadducees.
Huh?
Sadducees.
Sadducees.
Mm-hmm.
Sadukim are Baitus.
And that's showing how they wouldn't be bringing shalom. They weren't bringing out halachas.
That's right. This was they had this, so to speak, this powerful approach. Exactly what the Torah says, and that's exactly the opposite of what the Torah wants to say.
So Torah's nothing goes out but the shot. It also says.
Excuse me?
Nothing goes out of this plain meaning of the text. Also, in a different way.
Yeah, but what is the shot? There has to there is
The Rashad itself is
a broader perspective. What?
The Rashad itself, you're saying, is not as we see it. It's you have to understand it. The plain meaning of the text.
Shot, you're not allowed to carry things on Shabbos. Are you allowed to wear a shirt on Shabbos? Is that called carrying or not?
Everything has to be understood.
A melacha on Shabbos. The Chacham went into such really elements. If you carry this cup out, and in this cup, and you're carrying because there is a drop of water in it, you want to drink the water. But the amount of water that you're carrying is less than a revi, it's less than a shear of water. Even though the cup is a cup, it's a regular cup, you're potter. Because the cup is bottled, what was in and out? Because the cup is bottled to the water. You're carrying it because of the water. And Shabbos, the Torah says, Melachas Machshavos, that the intended melacha is forbidden. And melacha, and that's not inadvertently is not the melacha of Shabbos. The intended melacha is the carrying of the water, and the cup is in order to enable the carrying of the water. Therefore, it's not considered carrying. We are learning now Rambam for those who. I understand it's not possible for everybody to. And so, Rambam is talking about Nihilchis Gerushin, a person who gives a get with a t'nai. He makes a condition in the get. Such intricate and sub-cases and minute little variances and all that. It's all halachas. It's all halachas. And there's halacha that says, if he wants to make a t'nai of this type, here is how you should do it. The Chacham don't say, forget about it, don't make any t'nai, just give her a get. There's no such halacha. Because actually the truth and reason is because a get has to be done volitionally by the husband, and if he doesn't want to give a get, then it's not a get. So therefore, Achon provide for all kinds of mishugoyim who come up with all kinds of t'nai. That's what the Gemara says. He gives her a get. I'm not telling Shemayim. You should fly up to the sky. Condition: the get is invalid if you fly up to the sky. You fly to the sky. She flies to the sky. Okay. If somebody, okay, it's all halachas. Let's go. Okay.
So where are we exactly?
We are still here. We didn't fly to the sky yet. We are at the bottom third of the page, on a quarter of the page, Yud Zayin. The line begins with the word Ribei HaSholim. Okay, so we have now identified the inyan of inclusivity of opposites, due to the fact that they themselves also have that as their components. They have to have, otherwise they would not exist, because everything comes from the truth from the truth, and truth has everything. Okay, so Ribei HaSholem, that's the line. Omnam. However, Siba HaBeis B'Bchinas HaSholem V'Yiskalos. Another cause in the inyan for Sholem and his kalus and inclusion is a different type. Shaloi mitzad. Not because of the fact that each one is actually contained and incorporates its opposite, for a different reason. What's the shortcoming in this reason? Ki, because mitam zeh, if it were just from this reason, harei, so then kasher kol koyach. Hu b'bchinas pshitus v'atzmus. But each koyach is in its pshitus stand and in the atzmus element, bilti murkov me'akoyach ha'hafochim. Not murkov, not composed of the opposite koyach. As when we identify the essence of fire and the essence of water, then it's impossible for them that they should join. So let's think of this etzem hakoyach, etzem ha'eish, and etzem hamayim. We explained many times that the principle of essence does not exist in our physical world. We can, in a relative sense, we call it essence, but in the true sense of essence, it just doesn't exist. Because in order to exist in the world, it has to be a composite. It has to be composed of many entities. Like fire. Fire, by us, has to have, there's no fire per se. It has to have fuel that it consumes. By consuming fuel, there is a fire. So there's no essential fire. It's a result of consumption of fuel. And there's all kinds of different fuel. There is wood, there is oil, there is everything, all kinds of different things that burn. Like we are talking about all the time about the sun, that the sun is etzem behiri. The light element in the sun is not as it would meet the eye, as it would seem that it is due to the fire, that it's just a reflection of the fire. Even though in fact the sun is a huge ball of fire. But there is an element of light in the sun that is pure and is not the result of fire. Pure light. The Rebbe created light. It says in the first day of creation, the Rebbe created light. He didn't create fire to give light. He created light. And as we explain all the time, everybody has heard it many times, and to some extent we should be able to have a handle on it and a sense of what it is. This light the reason there is such thing as light is because there is an essential truth. We speak about it all the time, and I want to speak about it now because now we needed to understand what it says here. Taking it on a very simple and the lowest level, on the human level, we speak about ownership of a home, ownership of property in general, and particularly of a home. What is the significance of a home? Physically speaking, it has a function. You have a place to sit, a place to sleep, a place to put your stuff away. So that's not a home, it's a storage place. Conveniently apportioned, set up. So that's not what a home is. A home could be a larger area, as I explained many times, much larger than anything that a person would use for himself. And it's his home. What is the principle behind it? The principle behind it, this is called Iyar. The Iyar of this human being extends into this entire home. Because a human being has an essential presence, an essential truth. A human being has a godly presence, a godlike presence that Abraham gave him. And that is manifest in the fact that the human being has bechira. He can choose how he acts. He can create his own perspective. He's a limited creature, but he's got this intellect where he can act on the basis of the truth as he identifies it. Nothing compels him to act in one way or another. It's an amazing creature. There's no counterpart, nothing similar in any other creature. Because of that, this reality, he has a real place in the world. And therefore he actually has Oyr, which means his presence spreads in the entire area that he occupies without him being there. What spreads? What, like I said many times, you have a home and you expand it, you add another room. You take the wall down and move it 10 feet. And the home is not 2 times the size. Do you have to become bigger to occupy that home? Shneir. Not obviously. What do you think? Not at all. How come? How can you occupy, you're this big, now you twice as big a home? Because this oil is not a product of fire, of some kind of a tangible presence. This oil is a representative of truth per se. We're going to go to that which we said a very long time ago. Maybe now we can really get ahead, hopefully get into this. The Rebbe created light the first day, and there was no fire behind the light. What is the significance of that light? That light, it says, Odom Orishein, Mabit Bey, Odom Orishein was able to project, to see from one end of the world to the other. Now light, the way the way light works for us, light has to hit an object and deflect from the object and hit the object. That's how we see the object. The minute the light hits the subject, it stops. It doesn't go beyond the object, right? It deflects. So if light travels and it hits a wall, you see the wall very clearly, but on the outside of the wall there is no light. How can you see me safe or not safe? Obviously, it's a different kind of light. It's not a light that travels. And obviously it doesn't travel because it doesn't have a base. It doesn't have fire from which it emanates. What is the meaning of that light? Please try to understand this. What is the meaning of this light? Now, just as we discussed before, this light, the human light. Human light is a representative of the fundamental reality of the human being. He doesn't have to spread there. He doesn't have to claim it. He doesn't have to say, this is mine, don't go there.
That's what we call Malay.
He doesn't have to protect it. Doesn't have to fight for it. It's not like the lion has to protect his turf. He's automatically everywhere. Because of the reality of his presence. Now, light as we know it, okay? Put that off for a moment. Light as we know it, light as we speak all the time, even the experience of physical light as we experience it, is a phenomenal experience. There's nothing like it. We don't even realize sometimes how significant this experience is. This gives us a sense of the reality of the world. Like we said, the Gemara said, that the halacha is, now Suma is part of the Kol HaMitzvos. Suma is part from mitzvahs. Why? Because he doesn't have a real world. But he has touch, he has taste, he has smell. He doesn't have a real world. Where is the reality in the world come to us as a result of sight? In one very simple thing, which we have mentioned many times, even on the physical level, this is our experience of light. In the fact that we see the object in a very real, beyond convincing level, without ever having to come in contact with it. What does it mean? The object is there, and you're sure it's there. I said beyond convincing. Touch convinces you that it's there. Smell convinces you that it's there. Everything else is just a convincing method. Sight is beyond convincing. Sight is, I see the reality. This is it. This is him. There is nothing that can convey the reality of a person's face comparable to sight. If you want to identify a person, who is this person? By touch. Feel him out, or whatever, however you want. Can you possibly identify him? Why? Here's his form. Why is there such thing as sight, even on a physical level? Because there is such a thing as reality. Because the world is a godly creation. Everything is real. Real means real in and of itself. Real means it is not just a relative presence. It's a presence. Here's the translation of the word real. It's a presence not because I am here, but because God wants me to be here. That's meant to be. Like we say, as some you get a cut in your finger, nothing happened. Just put it, bend it, and it's going to heal. Why? Because you're for real. This means real. Real means beyond the experience, beyond the worldly level of relative acknowledgement. This means real. But that means that the Rebbe first created the world by Choshech. It was Choshech. Choshech means that the world is merely a tangible presence. Only that which we can identify by touch is present. It's dark. By Iyar. So the Rebbe revealed in the world a new reality. But there is also a real presence. Like we spoke about recently. The visibility aspect of the world rather than the tangibility aspect. That which you can only identify by sight. This is the Oyes in your emanation. This is, so to speak, the purity of light. This is not light because it emanates from a fire. It's the idea of light, the idea that there is such thing as a truth, because and it can only be identified from on a visibility level. This truth element, this light without a fire, this is the meaning of an etzem. Etzem, in our world, the way we view things, everything is a composite of different little pieces. The real thing behind it is etzem. Etzem means it is there not because of its own presence, it is there because of the godly will that it should be there. It's as true as the godly will itself. Let's make that. Etzem means, in simple terms, that's exactly what it is the godly presence on a worldly level. Just make that. They're worried about global warming. No, it's a valid worry. It's a valid worry if the world were just a natural world. But the world is not a natural world. The world is a godly will. The world is an infinity itself in a finite capsule. Speak about it many times, and the living element in the earth and so forth. And we point out, the earth is suspended in mid-nothingness. Why? How? Because it's suspended. Because this is how God wants the world to look. It's interesting, even on the lowest level, the Gemara says, Odem yesh mazel, v'heim ayin lo mazel, which means that a behemoth, if it goes in a place of danger, it has no protective shield. Odom is no mazel. He has a protective shield. Surely he shouldn't be a fool and expose himself, but somehow Odom is protected against in danger. Because it's not just a natural stage of things. Therefore, now we come to this. Therefore, there is a fire that is etzem fire, not the practical fire, the fire that's composed of fuel and air and so forth. Fire per se, and there is water per se. This is a real creation. This is Chesed and Gura in its purity. Now we need to explain and find how these two at that level can also interconnect and intercombine. And that is what we count. Where there isn't a subcomponent. the purity of the idea itself. Light that was created on the first day, all the Mauritian was able to see Meseva and not Sefer. There is no way to block that light. We have light. We put the shade down, we don't have light. There's no way to block that light. That light was omnipresent.
Why is this a stronger question than the Koyach that's Pashut?
What?
Why is this a stronger question than the Koyach that's Pashut?
Cheaters.
That's what he said. No. That's a pshitus. Pshitus. Before we said, but there are pshitus, but the pashut it also has components, and you can combine because of its components when you break it down to its components. Now we're saying, but that's not enough. That's not enough. The real Yahashalom has to be something that provides for combination in its pshitus level.
So while it's Pshitas, it combines.
Before we said, go back to the previous page and go at the end of the fourth line from the bottom. Page Tezai.
Yeah.
Kol koyach kolu mikol hakoyach. Gam k'mei shu posh. That's normal way. But now we say we talk about every koyach is composed, it has components of all the koyachs, even in its pshitas level. So that's at that level. But there is a pure pshitas that is just that in itself. That is not dependent on its hiskalos. It's just the godly Indian that the Rebbe should want and the Rebbe should be fire. And it's there because there's a godly element to that. Nothing to do with all its components. A fire, a light without a fire.
And why do we say that the Pshitas has to be able to combine with in its Pshitas level?
Because as long as it's not the true Iyar of Shalom. There's a certain level where there couldn't be, there's no Shalom.
We say Shalom has to be at all levels?
Yeah. We'll come back to this lots of Shuv and so forth. Okay. Yes, Yitzchak, I saw that you were inching to...
I just wanted you to repeat one sentence. And
Did I?
I wanted you to repeat one sentence.
Did I repeat it?
No, and I can't remember what it was, or where it was. You know, I'd have to stop the tape.
Okay, so you'll get it from Yunus. I'm sorry, I can't...
Yeah, I understand. It would break the flow.
It breaks the flow and it breaks the thought process, and you
Right.
and you can't focus on the...
You can't stop. If somebody in the middle of a sonata say, "Could you repeat that phrase?"
Rabbi, I'm having a bit of a problem over here. How does Chesed or Gvura express itself with the exact opposite?
I have a little problem, Schneider.
Yeah, I know. I have to come in the morning. I figured it might be something you could answer. I figured I'll try.
Okay. So Shlomo Yunus to the rescue for anybody who really wants to follow through on it. All right, gentlemen, this is it for this evening.
We welcome David Davenay back to
Shalom Aleichem,
class.
David Davenay. How was your trip?
It was good.
Okay, I'm switching off. Thank you.
I missed the show.
Iyar